Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure to see you in Beijing and for this wonderful conference, Ambassadors Roundtable on Developing Tourism. Actually, the theme for this panel is called Revitalizing Tourism and Jointly Creating a Bright Future. So, Madam Ambassador from Mozambique, I understand there are a lot of things your country have been doing in order to promote and revive tourism. So you have quite a number of emerging tourism destinations. You're trying to make the policy align with the future of possibilities. Tell me more about that, how you are doing it.
Mozambique, let me talk about Mozambique. It's a very beautiful country. It's located in the southeast of Africa with the long coast, beaches, islands, and with the all to do the diving, to explore a lot of things and the beauty of the country with the diversity of culture, with lovely food, lovely people, and lovely nightlife. That's why Mozambique has taken the tourism as a priority because of all this that is there. And before the outbreak of COVID, indeed, Mozambique was doing very well in tourism. 5% of our GDP was from the tourism in 2019. But last year, it dropped to 1.3. So which you can imagine how the business was affected by the COVID-19 and also the impact on the people, employment. We had 65,000 people that were employed in the business of tourism, but now most of them, they're left unemployed. And I'm not talking about the value chain they add to the other sector like small and medium enterprise. So for Mozambique to try to revitalize the economy, especially on the tourism, we are promoting the domestic tourism, but apart from that, we are easing all the rules to enter the country. We are only, requesting the PCR, the vaccine, and the others for the people to enter the country. And also we have introduced, for the comfort of the investor and the tourists to feel safe, we have introduced the clean and safe certificate. And apart from that, also we are doing the campaign for mass vaccination against the COVID, because we believe that if more people get vaccinated, the country they can be more open for people to enter. We are really looking to see if we can receive more visitors coming from outside, and we are looking that our tourism can come to the way how it is. To have people from all over the world to come and enjoy all the beauty, the relaxation, the exquisite treatment that our people can give. Thank you very much.
If I could, Madam Ambassador, just let you to recommend one place, 30 seconds if you can, a place that you would rest your soul in your country, which place would you recommend?
In Mozambique, when you're there, you can go and visit the parks because we have the wildlife. And also you can enjoy the beaches along, because we have 2,700 kilometers of the coast. So what I would recommend, we have a place called Vilanculos, where we have a small island and prime tourism. We receive people even from the royalty in that area. Thank you very much.
I already see the lights in your eyes. Obviously, you also want to have a vacation there.
Yes, yes.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for that recommendation. Let me go to another women leader, our ambassador from Kenya. Same, in fact. I know there were a lot of challenges, but things are getting better, as Madam Ambassador from Mozambique suggested, with mass vaccination, with masks, and with people's hope of getting back to work. So what about for Kenya? You have beautiful wildlife too. Tell me more about that, Madam Ambassador.
Thank you, Tian Wei, my friend, and for this organization today. Indeed, this is one of the most important sessions in Kenya, considering that tourism is one of the most vibrant industry. What would you talk of Kenya if you cannot make it your destination, tourist destination? Indeed, it has been because of the beautiful, amazing landscape of Kenya. You talk about the large safari and animals. You're talking about the beautiful beaches and the wonderful weather that we all enjoy in Kenya. That in itself set tourism as one of the largest and vibrant industry in Kenya. So with COVID, that hit us. The whole system was adversely affected. And so revitalization of the tourism industry is an important and very critical undertaking by Kenya. So as you know, being one of the largest employer, because it employs over 2 million Kenyans, meaning it's actually the single largest employer in Kenya. And so anything that impacts on tourism is literally shaking the economy of Kenya. Part of what we did was put some stimulus funds to revive the industry. It had to put some repackaging of the tourism industry through promotional programs to focus on domestic industry. So we put up promotions that was able to attract families, able to attract city to city, moving from one city to another, and a number of Kenyans had to move through the infrastructure of SGR. We all know SGR, which has played a very critical role in the promotion of tourism. So much of what Kenya did was to encourage domestic tourism. And most of the sustaining in the last part of the year was the movement of people from one city to another, going to the beaches, attraction to the animal industry, as something that had never happened before. So we are more relying on domestic industry.
But just to follow the tradition, if you have 30 seconds to recommend a place in your beautiful country, where would you say to our audience today?
You can't miss the wonder world of wild beast migration. If there is anything that you would want to do in your lifetime, visit Kenya and watch the magical wild beast migration. That is an amazing thing that I would encourage everyone sitting here and listening to me to make sure they visit and do well.
Now let me go to the ambassador from Pakistan. Mr. Ambassador, I know Pakistan has been doing a lot, not only for the regional peace, but also for reviving the tourism in your country. For example, you have established the tourism board, for example, and relaxed visa restrictions. This is even before the pandemic. Tell me more about how you are dealing with the challenge of the pandemic.
So as the world grapples to come out of this crisis, health crisis, and how to recover leisure, travel, and hospitality industry, I think this forum is very important. Pakistan is very familiar to our Chinese friends. Batiye, the Iron Brother, is a beautiful and diverse country and blessed with a very exotic geography. We have fertile valleys, rivers, but most importantly, Pakistan is blessed one of the most highest mountains in the world in the north of Pakistan, which is, of course, we share it with China also. And Pakistan is also home to one of the oldest civilizations in the world, the Indus Valley civilization, the Gandhara civilization, which dates back to from 3000 to 7000 BC. And of course, the people of Pakistan are hospitable and always open their hearts. As you mentioned, this is the time to open our doors and welcome people. Pakistan, as you mentioned, the tourism has been identified as a key priority area in Pakistan. We have established a national committee besides broad policies to attract tourists, new visa policy, online visa policy, and developing of infrastructure and new tourist resorts. With China, a very important area of cooperation, we have finalized an MOU on tourism cooperation, and we are working with various Chinese tourist agencies to promote tourism. And of course, we have established Tian Wei, a dedicated tourism website in Chinese language, which we are going to launch shortly. But coming to Kenya, mentioned some very important recommendations and points. I would like to give you two, 3 points also. I think from this forum, from this summit, and as we move forwards, we have to deliberate and give some recommendations to countries which are still not out of woods, where still this tourism industry is suffering, because we are talking about an ecosystem. Hospitality industry, travel industry, leisure industry, food industry. People have lost their jobs. The poverty alleviation has increased poverty has increased in many countries. So I think we need to give some recommendations how these countries can recover from these impacts and negative effects. So one thing, of course, as Madam Ambassador mentioned from Kenya, that we can repackage some of the tourism offers that we give, how to do that in this difficult time in a way that we can have a responsible and safe tourism. Secondly, I think this important point is that Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chen also mentioned smart tourism, use of innovation and technology, how to develop some packages which can be virtual tours. So in that way, many countries need capacity building, need hand-holding. So I think these two, 3 imports, some of the recommendations which Madam made, are worth considering besides other areas that can be looked into. As you mentioned, the challenge is there, but the opportunities are there. Where there's a will, there's a way. Thank you.
I'm glad that is the motto we always remember. It's very important to be this time, right? If a place for you, Mr. Ambassador, to recommend, where would that be?
It will depend, of course, on the tastes of the tourists. We have everything to offer.
I know you would say that, but just one place.
But if you are an adventure seeker, if you want outdoor sports, trekking, hiking, mountaineering, the north of Pakistan is the place to visit.
All right. I hope we'll be able to do that with you as well one day. Hopefully that's soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador from Pakistan. Let me go to Mr. Ambassador from UAE. So good to see you again, sir. A lot of things are going on in your country. Congratulations. Expo is one of those. Very soon, 2020. Tell me more about how you're preparing and how is it likely to work with tourism of your country, please.
We are already counting less than 30 days toward the Dubai Expo, Expo 2020. although we are in 2021, which means this expo already been deferred from year 2020 to 2021 for obvious reasons. However, we are committed to put on unprecedented expo ever, and it's in many ways, and we are expecting more than 190 or 191 countries to be actively participating. We are expecting 25 million people to be attending the expo over the 6 months. So also the great news that we are creating unprecedented benchmarks, which is the legacy of the expo. 80% of the legacy on the structure of the expo will remain for future generations. So these milestones we are putting over here is unprecedented, and we are creating benchmarks for future expos. So that's to touch on this. Of course, the issue of the pandemic is very highly addressed in the UAE. We are among the highest vaccinated nation. We are...
Congratulations on that. I know you made a lot of efforts on that too, you personally. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador.
No, thank you. Thanks to the great cooperation and both countries' leadership contribution in this from China and the UAE. We are producing the vaccine in the UAE, 200 million vaccine a year. That's a milestone. We are achieving more than 80% of a vaccinated nation. Of course, UAE play a very important role in terms of different programs under the umbrella of the United Nations and the World Health Organization of transferring around 18 billion vaccines through the year 2021. That's due to the sound and the capable logistics and the capabilities in the UAE, and of course our sound airlines. So Expo is a very exciting time, and I believe we are putting great foundation. Let me just touch on one of the biggest pavilion, which is the Chinese pavilion, which is reflects of the light of China, the theme of the pavilion, and it will showcase great of China's achievements in terms of science, technology, and certainly not going away from the deep culture.
Well, if I would love you to recommend a place in your country besides the China Pavilion, where would you recommend, sir, for people to visit?
Certainly, I would say for the next 6 months, I would highly recommend to visit Expo. That's something very important. And also, our fellow Chinese, they have a free access visa to enter to the country, and this is well established long time ago, since the year 2016. So there's great opportunity for, and there's no quarantine, by the way, so go ahead.
Terrific, good to know. It's wonderful to see both Ambassador of UAE and Ambassador of Pakistan, together with our earlier two Madam Ambassadors, talking about responsible, safe, and smart travel. And that is so crucial these days. Thank you for your input. I want to go to now Ambassador from Jordan. Jordan has been playing a very key role in promoting Belt and Road Initiative, and also you bring in, tourism factors into that as well. Mr. Ambassador, though, now we are facing the pandemic. It's already 1.5 years. How do you think your country is trying to come up with the right solutions for now, and even for the near future?
Indeed, talking about the problems, I think we all share the same problems when it comes to the impact of the pandemic on tourism, particularly in a country like my country, where tourism is one of the most important sectors, where 15% of our GDP depends on the tourism sector. However, through the very beginning, we tried to follow a very much similar way of dealing with the pandemic like China. The closure and the blockade was not good enough for an economy as small as my country, where unfortunately also we have like 40% of our populations are refugees. So we already have an economy burdened with a lot of problems there. So it was not easy to keep the blockade. So we have to open up, especially to serve the tourism sector, which, as my colleagues mentioned, a lot of sectors also are connected to this sector and a lot of people in the country. Smart thinking and innovative thinking was the very key word of how to deal with the situation. And providing a safe corridor for tourism and for tourists in my country, Jordan, was a very important priority to my government. And that's why we embarked on first of all, on a vaccination plan, not only for the whole nation trying to do, but also to certain sectors where it could help revitalize the economy. And for that, for example, we managed in the south of Jordan to create the Triangle of Tourism, where we have like an area mostly isolated and safe enough to accept and to host tourists from around the world. And luckily we started to receive chartered flight coming and pouring in, simply because we provided that very safe, isolated area, as I said. The number of sectors involved also have contributed by the responsible contribution to the safety measures, including vaccinations and regular tests on their safety. All of this together managed to facilitate the opening, which started yesterday, the full opening of the country and the full release of restriction on movement and on gathering in the country in spite of the COVID situation worldwide. So I would say that we tried and we are working on utilizing this smart and innovative way of how every technique we could do, not only provide the safety place, but also to service the tourism sector in a way that it will not provide alternative, but it will serve and facilitate the revival of the sector and the coming back of the tourists to the country.
A place in your country that you would recommend?
Yeah, well, the trend now, or the most recent trend about tourism, is the space tourism. Everybody likes to go to space, especially after Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. You know, they triggered the first flight to the space. Now, the good news for all of our audiences, or for the whole world, is that in Jordan we have Wadi Rum. Wadi Rum is the most resemblant area on the earth to the surface of Mars. So, for those who wish to go to space, maybe in a few years' time, as had been promised by those space experts, you don't need to wait for years to go to the moon or to the Mars. You can just simply drop in Wadi Rum, where you can see the first-hand experience of the same surface of Mars and the same surface of Moon. And also we have provided hotels very much like the space labs and the space stations.
Sounds good.
But you can still enjoy the open air in the evening, especially, and enjoy the galaxies and the stars as well.
You can tell on the stage this is a friendly competition, but beautiful competition, because we all want to go everywhere you guys recommended. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you.
Let me go to Mr. Ambassador from Zimbabwe. I always dream of going to many of your countries. Mr. Ambassador, but it was hit by the pandemic too. An employment issue, as everyone, ladies and gentlemen, already earlier mentioned. What is that unique solution from your country, Mr. Ambassador?
Thank you very much to the organizers of this seminar. And first and foremost, I'm very excited being so close and talking to Ms. Tian Wei. I've just been watching her on CGTN, and being next
Thank you,
to
sir.
her like this, it's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Zimbabwe, a world of wonders, is a country endowed with so tourist touristic attractions, to include the Victoria Falls, one of the 7 wonders of the world. And in as far as the country is working on the promotion of tourism, the unique thing we have tried to do is ensuring that, albeit all the current challenges, we vaccinate the people in a targeted manner in that tourism is promoted. And the Victoria Falls city I've mentioned about, which is our center for tourism, has been vaccinated to herd immunity. And for that reason, it is now safe for tourists from all over the world. In addition to that, especially for our Chinese visitors, your visas are on point of entry, and as long as you are fully vaccinated, you have your full current results, nucleic acid tests, there will be no quarantine. You will be welcome.
Mr. Ambassador, to recommend a place from your country, I know it's very hard, but one place.
The one place I will recommend for you is the Victoria Falls. And once again, like I'm saying, the pandemic has presented challenges. The traffic, which was supposed to be coming in, is not at its pre-pandemic levels. Hence, what we are encouraging as the most practical or pragmatic move for the world is that the big powers, advanced economies, must work together and ensure that vaccine research is science-based so that we prevent any further pandemics which will come in the future to have this same devastating effect like has happened with COVID-19.
Thank you very much. Let me now go to Ambassador from Colombia. I know your country has been doing so much in order to promote tourism, which is crucial for your economy. You know, you have this amendment to the general law of tourism recently. You also have been trying to promote the rejuvenation of tourism in your country, but a lot of uncertainties, just like everywhere in the world. Mr. Ambassador, how is your country trying to deal with both the planting of opportunities for the future and, on the other hand, the uncertainties?
Let me first thanks the WTCF for this very special invitation. We, Colombia, are very close. Bogotá has had events in our capital for the Federation. Second, as you said, yes, we had this, in the middle of lockdown in 2020, we decided to amend our tourism law in order to promote and to recover it. It's mostly based in those areas like, of course, safety, also responsibility, and also sustainability for the future. In the short term, there were some measures, some temporary measures in terms of taxes. So we reduced the tax reduction in air tickets from 19 to 5%. We reduced some energy consumption tariffs for tourism-related places. We kept some special tax for building hotels and new places for tourism, only 9% tax, which is low. We are also working in many other areas in promotion, and because of that, and after the lockdown, we had very strict lockdown, of course, since March up until the end of the year. Then we started to open, and now almost 50% between the end of 2020 and early 21, we had an increase of 50% of weekly international frequencies and seat occupation. So it's already starting, people traveling back to Colombia. We, of course, safety and vaccination. So we started in February to the vaccination campaign. One very important part of it has been, thanks to the Chinese companies, we have provided a large percentage of the vaccines that have been applied in Colombia, more than 14 million doses. For that,
thank you for your work.
No, that's been, we're really thankful with China. And we expect, but by the end of this year, we'll have between 70 to 80% of our population already fully vaccinated. So that will help, of course. Finally, I think in the future, Colombia is a country located northeast of South America. It's the only country in South America that has both Pacific and Atlantic Caribbean Sea. It's very diverse. It's one of the biodiversity is very high in Colombia. It's one of the most high biodiverse countries in the world. We have mountainous areas, we have jungle, we have open spaces. And I think the world will look in the future for more open spaces tourism.
And especially, you know, with biodiversity being the emphasis of the year later in October in China. So it's very exciting. Tell me more, one place only you would recommend.
Okay, I'll give you two. One of them.
One place.
Okay, no, one very special place. You know, Colombia, we say that has the best coffee in the world. Oh. So we have the coffee region area, which is a beautiful landscape. It's mountainous with a lot of flowers, with a lot of old towns, colorful. Yeah. So that's the place to go once people can travel.
Thank you. Last but not least, let's go to Spain. We have Mr. Charles Taver from the Spanish Embassy in Beijing. It's one of the most desired tourism destinations in the world. You know, hardly to find anybody who do not like Spanish food either. So I know you have a long list of cities and places for us to go, but how do you see, you know, this tremendous challenge from the pandemic and maybe the changing of habits even of tourists for a country who have been doing tourism for a very long time? Mr. Charles Taver, please.
I was talking about the challenge, the multiple challenges brought about by the pandemic and the responses. We have countries like Spain, which have a strong tourism sector having working on throughout the last year. We know, for instance, if we take a look at the Chinese tourists in Spain, who have been increasing year by year until the outbreak of the pandemic, they were not interested in things like the sun, the beaches. The Chinese tourists are much more interested in experiences, in discovering the cultural legacy, the artistic heritage, gastronomy, yeah, soccer, this kind of tourism of experiences. And I think this represents a very good opportunity, probably not only for Spain, because probably now, taking into account that Chinese tourists will maybe try to avoid maybe crowded places for safety reasons, they have the opportunity to discover off the beaten track cities and destinations which are, I think, the true jewels, the true unknown jewels of a tourism. Smaller cities, which, because the tourism in Spain is heavily concentrated in specific cities and areas, yeah, and then you have 3/4 of the area of the country which are off the beaten track, and that's the reality. So that opens a promising field for tourism, in particularly taking into account the inclinations and preferences of the Chinese tourists. Now we should expect smaller groups of tourists and also individual travelers coming from China, groups of less than 10 people and so on. And this, of course, we have to work in order to accommodate these needs. But as I said, this possible new pattern offers new possibilities for off-the-beaten-track destinations. Also, there is the issue of safety. And we are all concerned about safety and security. Security, well, Spain is a very secure country, there's not a problem. But in terms of safety and vaccination, I would like to share with you that just a couple of days ago, we reached a milestone, which is 70% of the population fully vaccinated in Spain, which is a very high. Also, what is interesting for the Chinese tourists is that Spain is one of the few countries in the European Union which has recognized the vaccines of Sinopharm and Sinovac for the purpose of going to Spain. Probably if you have only these vaccines, you won't be able to go to another European country, but you can go to Spain. and a couple of other European countries. So that's important.
If one place you can recommend in your country, where would that be, sir?
Anyway, I think that my personal choice was clear from the beginning, which is the northeastern city of San Sebastian, which has it all, because it's not a big city, but it has beautiful scenery, surrounded by green mountains, one of the best urban beaches in the world, and probably the best accumulation of good gastronomy per square meter in the world.
It is also important, as every one of you said, be responsible as the host of tourism. What kind of cooperation are you looking forward to? How our cities are going to cooperate? How are we going to work with the World Tourism Cities Federation? And how are we going to work with one another?
One of the most important things would be to have standards. Standards in, for example, in the applications, in order to allow people to arrive and to fly to other places. Yeah. The vaccine standards, the vaccine certificates would be very important. And also that could be led, of course, by the WTCF and by many organizations, and then allow the different travel agencies and tourism agencies to work together through WTCF to promote those main standards.
Great points. Go to Ambassador of Jordan, please.
Well, I can see that tourism is not only about pleasure and entertainment. It's also about energizing the spirit. And that's why it's inevitable that tourism means visiting places. So what is needed now is that we should, first of all, think that we are not competing on attracting tourists. We complement each other. And tourists should have the opportunity to visit any place they can to visit. But the most important thing is that difficult situations need also exceptional solutions. And when we work on innovation and smart technologies, these should not work on alternative for visiting the places, but they should facilitate the real visiting on the ground of tourists.
Madam Ambassador from Kenya.
Can we use WTCF to do virtual tourism? Can we share best practices across? Can we use WTCF to develop new strategies and adopt new ways that can be adapted across the globe to basically handle tourism in a very safe way?
Well, you asked a lot of questions. I hope the answers is yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador. And Madam Ambassador coming from Mozambique also.
Vaccine accessible and affordable, especially for developing country. Africa is still lag behind. Only 3% of population is vaccinated. So this is important that we should look at. Thank you very much. And before I stop talking, I wanted to invite all investors and tourists to visit Mozambique. It's really a beautiful place to see.
Thank you.
And to change.
Everybody should have fair access to vaccine. Everybody has that right. Thank you so much. Mr. Ambassador, coming from Pakistan.
Yeah, China, after successfully battling the COVID-19 pandemic, has been able to revive its domestic tourism and also have a part of its poverty alleviation program. So as mentioned, these experiences are worth sharing. So we would like to invite WTCF to host its next meeting of Fragrant Hills Tourism Summit in Pakistan. That will be, of course, great. We will commit to have a very safe and very productive summit.
We're actually going to have all the ambassadors after you pledging to have the next meeting hosting WTCF. But thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. It was a great idea. Ambassador from UAE, please, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Tian Wei. I want to use the first 10 seconds by saying that this year is, with the Expo, it will be coinciding with the UAE Golden Jubilee. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary of great achievements and milestones. And certainly, the next 50 years will be another exciting years of achievements. And certainly, and with no doubt, tourism will be sitting on the heart of the UAE plans. Going back about traveling, which is the most important in tourism, and I echo some of my colleagues over here, that clear, transparent, easy, accessible laws and regulations will make it much easier for traveling. I think we get to be resilient and we move on. We cannot just stay closing ourselves. We need to move on. Thank you.
Next, shall we have Ambassador from Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much. The strength of Africa is in its richness in diversity. You visit one country, you haven't seen Africa. It is my hope that the WTCF will work on combined packaged tours, which at least will give value for money to the Chinese tourist. And for this to be achieved, I'm happy to say Africa, through its CDC, is working on a strategy for the vaccination of the entirety of the African continent. Thank you.
Looking forward to that day. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Last but not least, Mr. Chastafer from Spain.
My answer will be twofold. First, I think it's essential to forge stronger partnerships between all stakeholders in the tourism sector. And it's not only about tourism companies in different countries, but also about institutions and governments. That's essential. And it's linked to the idea expressed by Ambassador. And the second thing, I think it's, well, it won't come as a surprise, the investment in digitalization, which is essential, because it will make a much nimble tourist market and will make it interoperable. And I will give you just one example. In recent years, thanks to this heavy investment, now the Chinese tourists going to Spain can use WeChat or Alipay, these kind of tools. So this investment pays.
Great. It's an hour and it flies by so fast because we are hearing beautiful and fascinating insights from you about the beauty and the sights of your countries. Thank you so much, colleagues. And Madam Ambassador, Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much.